everyone, it is Chaim at the Hasidic Gamers. It is now day 3 of the PlayStation Blackout. So, put things in perspective, both of us hosted a wine and cheese party for people in our circle, so, busy. But, as far as, boycotting something goes, if you're a working adult and professional, this isn't something that's really hard. But me, as an educator or teacher, when I'm home, I like to play games basically 24/7 as best as I can. Except on, Friday night through Friday night through Saturday evening because of Shabbos. So, 24/6. I just love playing the games because I love getting to experience the worlds and the story. But, I have to get used to the fact that teaching comes back soon. All the after hours, all the things. Gaming is something I want to really enjoy and prioritize what I'm enjoying, and I can honestly say that yes, I greatly prefer PlayStation 5 to playing on my Switch 2, just as I preferred it to my Switch. But as I, have, been on a pause, I think, if some of these games were on Switch 2, I'd play them, even if the games got significantly downgraded to make them an experience that people could have. I've talked about playing Vampire on Switch, and I played it, I fell in love with it. Then when I saw graphics for the PlayStation and Xbox versions, I was blown away that a game could look so stunning like that. And that's coming from me, the guy who's really never played anything that isn't Nintendo. Aside from my cousins who have PlayStations and Xboxes. So, yeah, I didn't get that experience. To get to experience things like that might be significant to people. But I really, really, really hope that I'm going to get back to playing the Thaumaturge on PlayStation 5. I'm hoping I get to play some of the smaller games made by newer studios like Ruffy and the Riverside. By the way, absolutely amazing game. It needs a Switch 2 physical. I really would buy it for Switch, but I really want a Switch 2 edition, not a Switch version. And it doesn't even matter if it's basically the same thing. I just want a Switch 2 version to put on my Switch 2 shelf. But I have other games that are still in my very long backlog from Switch, and games that I started really, really long ago that I haven't finished. Tears of the Kingdom being one, Age of Calamity being another, and that still means I have to play Age of Imprisonment. And there's, quite a lot of homework to do in Mario Kart World, and I still need to play Super Mario Bros. Wonder, so it's, there's lots of games. Not to mention the upcoming fucking amazing Ocarina of Time, which is one of the most defining moments of us 90s kids. If you had the N64, if you grew up with the N64, you just know how magical this is for us as adults, 30-somethings, 40-somethings, and so forth. You have no idea how much this actually means to me. I just think, people need to realize that gaming is also very connected to arts and culture. You think people started streaming music, but it still didn't mean people didn't stop pressing vinyls and making discs, and occasionally some people doing cassettes. It shows you that there's a huge market for this. If records have made over $1 billion in sales last year, and CDs are going by 10, 13, 14, 15, 16% in sales a year, or every month, we've got a serious question in our hands of, do people want to own things or do people want to license things? And that's what I find with the Sony PlayStation debacle, is that we're raising the question, fundamentally, as a consumer, do we want to own what we buy or do we not want to own what we buy? If we own what we buy, then, this should be a fairly easy thing. Log out, turn off your PlayStation, do not log back in until Sony gives us the news, gives us decent news. That's what we should be doing. But even if you think the same way and you're not doing that, you're still part of the gaming community. We still validate you and everything you're doing. But we would love to support the solidarity, even if you just joined us today, even if you joined us just 2 minutes ago. Just remember that this affects all of us who like movies too. This affects all of us who like books. People should want to physically own what they're buying, or at least have the chance to access it as long as it's accessible. You know, I've bought books on a Kindle, and you know, some of those books, the licenses are taken, and I don't have them anymore, which is confusing because I paid for this. I need this book. So aside from physically buying the book, there's really no way to have access to the book unless I make, you know, a copy that I shouldn't make. But that's, I mean, think about that. We as gamers have the choice, the power to actually make our voices heard again in a monumental way. And I just think to myself, it makes me sick to my stomach to think that a lot of people ordered physical disc attachments for PlayStation 5, and Sony just thinks that we don't need to do this anymore. It's like, a lot of people were willing to buy this. That means that these people want to play discs. I didn't buy a digital-only system. I would never buy a digital-only system. I mean, you could argue that a PC or Mac is, you know, the same way, but it's not. I mean, you typically own what you buy. You can back it up, you know. That's where you go for emulation. That's where you go for using ROMs. And it's also a great way for people to mod games and show us the cool mods they've been doing. That's where a lot of people, I think, get their development. And where a lot of us let our minds wander. So, another thing that's been in my head is Dolly Parton passed, and we also lost Tim Curry. And puts into perspective, we should do what we really value, what we think is really special. And, you know, gaming for me has brought me memories with my family and friends that I'm never going to trade, because we played Mario Party all those holidays. And, you know, yeah, I'll eventually collect again the N64 and GameCube versions, but I treasure those memories. And if everything ended tomorrow, I'd be like, you know, I did what I felt was enjoyable. I made memories and I did what I did. I just wish Sony could realize that gaming has a sentimental side to it that they're just not even looking at. When they have the audacity to make Astro's Playroom and show all this PlayStation history, which is really cool for those of us who didn't know every single thing, I think this is so cool. This is a company that's making a game that's really cute and gimmicky about their own history, which is so cool. Now, if only that was made physically so people could experience that as long as they have it. But now Sony wants to push this licensing. So you buy a game, it's a license, you're leasing a game, and then whenever it's over. But as we're on this topic, we really need to talk about the fact that Xbox, otherwise under Project Helix, has more or less been confirmed today that there's going to be backwards compatibility with physical discs, but it's going to scan them and generate a file or a license for that game. It's really unfortunate, because that's not even meeting us halfway. That's meeting us half of the halfway. That's not even anywhere near. Because it doesn't give us confirmed support for physical games on a new generation. It doesn't give us any of that. And that's what really bothers me, is I don't want to go into the direction where it's a code and box. Code and box with collectibles, but a disc is also collectible, cartridge is also collectible. Things like that, I can't. Really, I just can't. So I think, you know, we'll see where this goes. This was a late night video, which is not normal for the Casita gamers, but it's, you know, been a little more raw, a little more unfiltered. Anyways, if you like what we do, like, comment, subscribe. Make sure you comment, make sure you make your voices heard with Sony, and all we gotta do is believe in you and me